I wasn't supposed to find the note. It was stuck under my windshield wiper, soaked from a light drizzle that hadn't quite turned into real rain. I almost ignored it, thinking it was another flimsy coupon or some neighbor complaining about parking too close to the curb. But the handwriting stopped me. It wasn't a flyer. It wasn't a warning. It was a message, short, direct, almost urgent. You don't deserve what she's doing to you. I stared at it for a long moment, hearing the muffled sounds of traffic behind me, wondering who knew something about my life. Something I apparently didn't. I should have been confused. But deep down, part of me already understood. Not the details, not yet, but the feeling, the suspicion. The quiet sense that something in my life had started drifting without me noticing. The note didn't give me answers. It just confirmed the questions I'd been too afraid to ask. Lena had been different for months, not in some dramatic movie-style way. If anything, the changes were small, quiet, easy to overlook if you wanted to believe everything was fine. And for a while, I really wanted to believe that. But cracks always start small. New work trips she didn't explain clearly, sudden late meetings. A new skincare routine she said she learned on TikTok, even though she never watched beauty videos. Her phone suddenly having a passcode, and then another one for her photo vault. And that shift in her eyes whenever I asked harmless questions, like she was measuring every word. I wasn't paranoid. Just observant. There's a difference. And the more I noticed, the more I realized I had no idea who was drifting away from me, or who she was drifting toward. But I didn't confront her. I didn't want to look insecure, didn't want to start a fight, and honestly, I didn't want to lose her, so I told myself it was stress. Work drama, a tough season. Anything but the truth. The note forced me to stop pretending. I tried to ignore the message, I really did. But a week later, someone made sure I couldn't. This time, the note didn't show up on my car. It appeared on my desk at work. Inside the office. On my keyboard. No envelope, no signature. Just 4 words. Check the receipts. My blood ran cold. Not because I understood it, but because I didn't. What receipts? Whose receipts? And how did someone know where I worked, or which desk was mine? My first instinct was to throw it away. My second instinct was to pretend I didn't care. But the truth? I cared. More than I wanted to admit. At home that night, Lena was in a strangely good mood. She hummed while washing dishes, laughed at a show on her phone, and asked me about my day like nothing was wrong. Maybe nothing was wrong. Maybe I was overthinking. But overthinking doesn't leave 2 anonymous warnings in 2 different places. And overthinking doesn't hide locked folders labeled archive. I didn't mean to go through her email. But when someone's acting like they're hiding a second life, you start needing answers. The folder wasn't even password protected. Inside I found flight confirmations, hotel bookings, restaurant bills, rideshare receipts, and messages that didn't involve me at all. Over and over, one name kept appearing. Caleb, not a coworker, not a family member, not a friend she'd ever mentioned. Each receipt felt like another punch to the ribs, not hard enough to knock me out, but painful enough to make breathing difficult. What made it worse wasn't the existence of the receipts, it was the dates. Her sick days, her bad migraines, her last-minute work emergencies. Every lie had a corresponding bill. My hands were shaking by the time I closed the laptop, not out of anger, out of something I didn't even know how to name. Betrayal doesn't burn, it freezes. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I know what you found. Meet me tonight. I should have blocked it. Ignored it. Done literally anything or what I did next. But lies create a kind of loneliness that makes even strangers feel safer than the person sleeping next to you. That night, I drove to an empty parking lot behind a diner that smelled like old fries and bad coffee. A woman stepped out of a car I didn't recognize. She looked drained, like someone surviving on caffeine, panic, and no sleep. You're Michael, right? Her voice was tight, cautious. I nodded. And you are? Sarah, I waited. She took a breath, a deep, shaky one. "I think we're both being used." And then she held up a stack of papers, receipts, screenshots, messages, all with the same name, Caleb, the same dates as Lena, the same hotels, the same everything. But here's the twist. She wasn't talking about my partner. She was talking about hers. Her boyfriend, her fiancé actually. And he was with Lena, while being with her, while lying to both of us. My stomach twisted. There's something terrifying about meeting someone who knows your pain so precisely they can recite it. It was like looking in a mirror, not physically, but emotionally. "Why come to me?" I asked. "Because you're the only one who deserves answers," she said quietly. "And because someone left me the first note months ago, so the anonymous messages weren't random. They were warnings from someone who watched this mess unravel long before we did. Someone who knew everything. And someone who wanted us to know too." Sarah and I could have confronted them separately. We could have screamed, cried, broken things. But that wouldn't have fixed anything. We wanted truth, not chaos. So we planned something different, something cleaner, sharper, more controlled. A trap without yelling. A trap without violence. A trap made of facts. We spent the next 2 nights comparing everything. Dates, times, credit card statements, check-ins, messages, photos, social media posts. Even small details like outfits and excuses, every piece lined up. Every lie overlapped. It was like watching 2 puzzles merge into one ugly picture. And by the time we were done, the truth wasn't just clear. It was undeniable. We decided to invite them both to dinner, a neutral public place. Caleb thought it was a double date. Lena thought it was a surprise. But really? It was an ambush dressed as a casual night out. They arrived together. That was the first shock. Caleb smirking like he'd won something. Lena looking uncomfortable, like she'd already sensed the storm forming. We didn't waste time. The moment they sat down, Sarah pulled out the stack of receipts, sliding them across the table with quiet precision. Then I added mine. The shift was immediate. Caleb's smugness vanished. Lena's eyes widened, her face going pale. She grabbed one of the papers like she needed to prove it was fake. But it wasn't fake. "I can explain," Lena whispered. Sarah leaned forward. "No, you really can't." Caleb tried to talk, but every sentence sounded like a pre-made excuse he'd rehearsed. "It's not what it looks like. Then explain the dates," I said. "It wasn't like that. Explain the hotels. It just happened. Explain the months of lying. Every time he opened his mouth, another piece of evidence shut it. Eventually, he just stopped trying." Lena looked at me with tears she hadn't earned. "Michael, please, but tears don't undo betrayal. They just show regret, not guilt. People think the confrontation is the climax. But the real story happens after the explosion. After the truth settles. After the lies stop echoing." Lena moved out within 48 hours. Caleb tried calling Sarah until she finally blocked him across every platform. For weeks, my apartment felt too quiet. Too big. Too empty. But healing isn't dramatic. It's slow, uneven, quiet. It's relearning how to trust your own instincts. Relearning how to breathe without checking for lies. Relearning that not everyone you care about is secretly waiting to hurt you. And the strangest part? I never found out who left the notes. Not the first one on my windshield. Not the second one on my desk. Not the anonymous text. Sarah never figured it out either. Maybe it was someone at Lena's job. Maybe a friend. Maybe someone who saw Caleb with too many people too many times. Or maybe it was someone who'd been in our position once and didn't want to watch someone else fall the same way. Whoever they were. They saved me from a future built on lies. And sometimes that's all the closure you need.